Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Patriarchy, the role and suffering of men. Acharya Prashant at AIIMS Nagpur 2022. So, let me give my predictions and a few words before we get started. So, patriarchy, generally when I hear it, is usually in the terms of bad, like, oh, patriarchy, like it's always bad. It's nothing and ever good. Even though I think the definition, if I remember correctly, is just a male-led society. That's all it is. I mean, you have elephants, that's a matriarchy, female-led society. Nothing necessarily good or bad, you know, males aren't inherently bad, females aren't inherently good, and vice versa. It's just that, you know, I'm not sure how elephants are matriarchal, but, you know, they are. Or, well, actually, you know, probably arachnids. Some arachnids are matriarchal. Mating Black Widow. There's a reason why they're called that. Anyways, it just depends on the nature and how the male and females are made. The stronger of the sex will lead. So I'm assuming in terms of the elephants, the female is the stronger leader, and same with the, say, arachnids, they tend to eat their mates. Same with the mantis, praying mantis too. It's sorry, I watch nature shows too, and it's very interesting. Like the mantis says, I gotta hit that, but I might die, but it might be worth it, so I'm gonna try. You know, hey, look, you know, that's nature. That's all I'm saying. So the role and suffering of men. That's really interesting. He said it that way. The role and the suffering of men. I think people who use the patriarchy in terms of a negative sense probably doesn't understand in my opinion, again, the roles that men have in society. That, in my opinion, men are just throwaways. In a sense, their life aren't necessarily worth as much. You look at wars. You look at the war going on right now, where in Ukraine, men aren't. If I heard correctly, men in Ukraine are not allowed to leave the country. Women and children are. Men have to stay and fight. And then, and I think in Russia, I've heard that I think they started up the draft because of how bad the war's going, and men in Russia are trying to escape. So again, I mean, the people who think patriarchy is something bad doesn't understand necessarily, I guess, the entirety of history. I'm not saying that women have it. I believe women have it better. Not like that. It's like there's a magnitudes better, but generally speaking. Now, I'm open for it to be wrong, and I'm sure if someone can explain it to me, I am very much open-minded on that. It's just that the fact that men are looked at as kind of disposable. And it is true for the most part. There's a lot of things that goes into that. It's just not enough time to talk about it. So anyways, men generally speaking are very much disposable. So I'm wondering if that's what he's trying to say here too. Anyways, let's start and see what he actually is going to say. Volume and CC's on. Sorry, well, I mean, I'm going to throw all that stuff out there, and you know what, you can just yell at me all you want. I can't explain it all in just short time.
Krishna and Arjun are not separate. Arjun is the illusioned and confused mind. Krishna is the center of that mind. That is the relationship between Krishna and Arjun. Krishna is the heart of Arjun. That within you, which already knows, is Krishna.
Sir, it is often perceived that females are affected by patriarchal society, but do you think it affects men, and what, according to you, are the problems faced by men due to a patriarchal society?
See, patriarchy is a great bondage. Patriarchy is a state of mind. And what is its state of mind? Please pay attention. Patriarchy is to believe that your job in life is determined by your gender. That is patriarchy. Now, patriarchy is oppressive both ways.
Hold on. Sorry, rewind again real quick. Good Lord. I like his discussions, honestly, right now. Especially this thing. My question would be, your life is determined by your gender. That is patriarchy. So what does matriarchy means? A female-led society. I would not see the thing about me. I don't generally start saying female and male or patriarchy and matriarchy. Generally speaking, our society is determined based on how we develop it. If men are the one that are taking charge in developing society, it's going to be a patriarchal society because men are in the forefront of developing culture or society. Well, not culture, but just society in general. Culture is based on the men and women. And same thing goes for a matriarchal society. If the females took the lead and started building society, not the culture. Culture is done by both males and females, in my opinion. The society itself, the structure of society, the buildings, the comfort and all that, if it's, again, female or male, it'll just be led by that. But the culture itself is determined by both male and female. And don't get me wrong, the stronger of the genders will tend to... Anything with power can tend to be corrupted and can tend to exert their power on the weaker. That doesn't necessarily mean men oppressing women, but that just means powerful men or powerful women can oppress weaker men or weaker women. And for those who deny that, it's the fact that you look at a queen, and if a peasant man were to go up to a queen and slap her, you think in that patriarchal society that man's going to get away scot-free? No, he's going to get his head chopped off, and he did it to a woman, but a queen. So a lot of people put this thing between men and women, but in reality it's people of power versus people who are not in power, in my opinion. So you look in even modern day society, you see a lot of strong men, rich men. It's because they push themselves up to the forefront. But there are also strong and rich women that if you do the exact same thing to them, that the weaker, I won't say weaker in terms of strength, but just in terms of power, they will get punished for it. So it's not, I don't think it's about gender, but more along the lines of power.
Patriarchy. Now, patriarchy is oppressive both ways. Men have been told that your purpose, your station, your movement, your activities, your thoughts, your emotions, everything have to be determined by your gender. And women have been told much the same thing, right? So, it's not men versus women. It's wisdom versus ignorance.
It's always that, man.
Feminism as a bit of men versus women thing, or women trying to get away from oppression and being victims of men. So we take men as the victimizers, right? Well, apparently true. Apparently, obviously, men are the one who exploit and oppress. But if you'll go a little deeper into it, as Vedanta encourages you to, you will say, no, it's not that men are oppressing women. There is a common enemy, and the name of that common enemy is ignorance. It is because of ignorance that men continue to be men and women continue to be women. The fact is that as human beings, your nature is pure consciousness. Why do you call yourself man? Why do you call yourself a woman? Why have you made the body so important for yourself? Now you call yourself a woman and accord a man, let's say, and accord yourself some privileges. That's as debilitating as calling yourself a woman and according yourself certain duties or certain rights. The body cannot be the center of your existence. Please understand, whether you are a man or a woman, if the body is the center of your existence, then all we need is the jungle. There the body rules. Each species behaves exactly as per its genetic conditioning. That's called the jungle, right? Genetic.
Sorry, I wanted to pause right there. I would have formulated in this two ways. He's doing it actually. This is something I noticed about him. It's like whenever I listen, I'm like, what? I see what you're talking about, but that's kind of like a little bit different. Then as it goes down to the speech, it's like, oh, I see now you're merging it. But I would have split up again the three realities: the subjective, the transactional or objective reality, and then absolute reality. I I know he always keeps pointing to the absolute reality, but I don't know if these people, the students, go into Advaita Vedanta. So when you start talking about your true self, Brahman, I don't know if they would necessarily understand it that way. So how I would like to do it is understand what most people understand, which is a transactional or objective reality. And but he's going into in terms of how we are genetically built, how in nature, how men, the males and the females of the species and their roles. I mean, you look at the horseshoes? Seahorse, that's the one. Seahorse, the male is the one that gives birth. Either someone made a mistake in labeling, or that's one of the only species, I don't know, I think so, that the male gives birth. It's someone probably was drunk and labeled it wrong, but I don't know for sure. But yes, it's just how nature, in a sense, built us. So we are, in terms of who has power and who doesn't, who's stronger, who's not, who's wiser, who's intelligent, or whatever, it's based all in your genetics. And also on how people take leads and roles. Females has, well, I can't exactly tell you from the past. There has been queens in Egypt, England, and Spain. I couldn't tell you anywhere else. I'm sure there are queens in other places that have ruled with power. So it's not necessarily to say that women have not had power. But I think he's going to explain in the fact that in terms of our nature, that we are built a certain way and we're going to play our roles a certain way, which very much plays into Advaita Vedanta, as well as the ignorant, that we gather these identities which are also based on the transactional realities, based on our genes and our memories and our roles and whatnot, and we play those roles. The fools that we are, that we play in the transactional reality and not realizing that we are Brahman in the absolute reality.
Basically, we are conditioned and we behave as per our conditioning. That's what makes human beings unique. We have the potential to go beyond our genetic configuration. We have the potential to see that we do not behave exactly as per our body's mandate. You're sitting here. Let's say the five of us are here on the stage, right? Not all of us would be comfortable, physically comfortable with everything right now. I am, for example, feeling a little cold in the feet. You might be feeling something else, you might be feeling something else. But how much importance are you giving to your physical demands right now? Please tell me. Somebody in the audience might be feeling a little sleepy post the lunch. But you are the only species that can decide to overrule the body. The body is saying sleep and you say, I don't sleep. Right now is not the moment. An animal cannot make that decision. If an animal's body says eat, it will eat. You are the only one who can fight fear. You can the only one who can fight greed.
So essentially saying animal are instinctual in nature. We are also instinctual in nature, but yet we have this ability to override our instinctual nature. I do wonder, is there some animals that can override their instinctual nature? I don't know for sure. You can train an animal to be intelligent, to tell them to sit, fetch, and whatnot, like dogs and pigs and stuff. They're very intelligent, and I think dolphins are as well. But I don't know. Well, can they not eat when they're hungry? That's a different story. So natural urges and instincts, can they override that? When we're hungry, we can. Now, when an animal is hungry, it will seek to eat, but if it cannot eat, it will continue to seek. But if there's food present in front of them, much like us, when we're hungry, we will eat. But can we override that? We can, but can animals?
If an animal feels attracted towards something, it will go towards that. And that's the reason why The entire feminist narrative needs to be cleansed of the word want and desire. Feminism cannot be about doing what you want to do. Let the girl do what she wants to do. That's not feminism. No. Just as patriarchy has said, let the boy have lots of rights, let the boy do a lot of what he wants to do. And that kind of patriarchy has been very, very bad for everybody. Similarly, if you let the woman have her way and say, let her do what she wants to do, and that's called women's emancipation, that's not taking you anywhere. That's what animals do. They just do what they want to do.
Oh, again, he always gets me with that. It's so weird. It's like, I'm like, what? I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't know where you're going with that. Then he ties it up at the end. It's like, oh, yes. And it's kind of true. Like, sorry, I keep pausing, but he just makes really good point. And things that I also think about a lot, especially with in America at the moment. There are a lot, again, I think we talked about this in the last video of his, is the fact that a lot of women are going into these job fields and are being very unhappy because they think this is what the feminism have sold them the story that they don't need no man, they don't need children, they don't need whatever. But there, I think maybe in some of the women, not all of them, of course, there are some women who went on to their career and are happy being single or being without a child, just being with a partner, and that's perfectly fine. But there are also women out there who heard this and then hear the other side. You know, it's like, I'll get to my reasoning with that. But anyways, they got to this point and now they're like, they're lonely. They wish they gotten married. They wish they got his child. They give up that successful career to have a loving family. And I think this is the kind of the I won't say false, but the kind of the, I won't say lie either, but it's just this push to push people to think a certain way. And that happens to both men and women, but in terms of feminism, they push this women that this is the only way, this is the only way you'll be happy, instead of saying, hey, look, you know, be mindful that you do have a time limit on when you can have babies. Once you get past that, it becomes very difficult. And just be wise about what you want, whether to be a career or to be, you know, have a loving family, you know, whatever it may be. Just be wise about your decision. And instead, what feminism, at least from the extreme side over here, is to say, no, you don't need none of that. This is what makes you happy. And there's a lot of women out there who believed in that story and was pushing for that, thinking that they can have it all, only to realize that to get this career, this great career, took them 20 years of their life. Now they're 45, and because of the thing with I mean, hey, there's some women out there who can have babies a lot later on, but it just becomes so difficult and so, how to say, there's a very high chance of issues with the baby, or even if you can get pregnant. So yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that I wish that a lot of women would be taught. It's not just about chasing their career, but making sure they get the path that makes them happy. Again, this is all the transactional reality. I believe in, of course, achieving both, being happy in your transactional life, and as well as your seeking to achieve enlightenment.
Human beings are human beings because they can go beyond their wants, because they can go deep into themselves and find out what they are here for. This power to self-respect, this power to get at the core of their identities is what makes us human beings. Otherwise, there is no difference between us and animals in the jungle. Are you getting it? What was the question, by the way?
Sir, does patriarchy affect men also?
Obviously, we are all on the same boat. Think of a family where the wife and the girls and let's say the mother-in-law, they are all in shackles. And when you're in shackle, what do? You radiate joy, you make everybody blissful. What do you do? When you're in a bad mood, what do you do to your friends? Yeah, you give them flowers when you're in a bad mood. What do you do? So how can the man prosper or flourish if the women in his life or the women around him, they constitute half the world's population, if they're not doing well?
I'll say this. Good Lord, I'm pausing so much, but I genuinely do believe that a woman can make a man much better. A man can only do so much on his own, But whenever a man finds a really good woman, that man can become so much better. And the reason why being is because he found something. He found, like this goes for significant others. Let me put it that way. If you find someone that you genuinely love, that person should make you a better person, and that you do great things for not only yourself but for the person that you love and everyone around you. But if you're kind of like a soloist in the world, you can still do great things. But I don't know. I think there might be that missing portion of making you somewhat greater. Just because there's, I guess, there is this. How to say this? There's this thing in your life that you want to make proud of. Whereas if you have no one necessarily, you have friends, you don't necessarily have to impress them, but it's nice to. But when there's a significant other, you generally want to you want to be seen as something great through their eyes. That they appreciate you for who you are and your greatness, and because of your greatness, that you give them great joy as well. That's a sign of a good person, generally speaking.
So obviously it's bad for the man, not only because it is bad for the woman, but because the principle that oppresses women, we are talking of the principle, also oppresses men equally. And that principle continues because we do not see that the principle is the oppressor. We think that the man is the oppressor. No, it's not the man that's the oppressor. The principle of ignorance, Vedanta calls it Maya. That principle is the oppressor. Are you getting it? I'm not trying to absolve men. I'm not speaking as a man on Women's Day. Please.
AIMS, what kind of school is this? Because if this is about philosophy, I understand where it's going with this, because this is definitely philosophical. I can't say the word, but this is very much philosophy, and I would assume they'd be learning Eastern philosophy, Advaita Vedanta. If not, if this is just like some IT school or a school not dealing with philosophy, I wonder if it'd go over their head, and that's what I'm a little bit fearful of. Let me look it up.
I think I'll have to clarify that again and again, because a lot of what I'm going to say would not sit well with the existing definitions of feminism. You see, I get bashed from both sides. Men think that I lean just too much towards women. And women say, but you are not directly trying to give us rights. Instead, you tell us about our real identity and such things. So a lot of women do not quite like what I say. But since you have been courageous or adventurous enough to have me here, I'll do what I do.
As you stated, that feminism is often misunderstood as battle of sexes. However, it is not. It aims to understand why there is gender inequality in the society. It is the idea that the fight for the equality that exists in our society would somehow erase the masculinity or disempower men. That strangely is insulting to some men who do not identify themselves as offensive to women. So my question is, how would deconstructing the contemporary masculinity would help the movement, and what men can do to contribute to achieve the equality in the society and women empowerment?
See, men.
Sorry. Anyway, so All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences. Okay, so medical. Still not philosophy, but medical. I think with that one he was talking about there is, you don't, to me in my opinion, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just a-hole peoples and toxic people. I want to look at masculinity and femininity in their strongest term as only things good, never anything bad. That way we can encourage people to be good. It's like if you say someone's very masculine, you want that to be a very positive thing, so that people say, oh man, I want to be masculine too because I'm a man, I want to be masculine, so I have to do good things to become masculine. But if you say toxic masculinity or masculine that's bad, then you don't differentiate good and bad men in general, in my opinion. In my opinion, more so. But yeah, I think a lot of men do want to strive to be good, obviously, and same thing with for females. But if you combine this one term that's meant to be something good into something that's bad, then there's no difference between them. That's what, and that's why I say put toxic masculinity. But then where's the good masculinity? Because you say masculinity, is it toxic or is it good? Just because you're saying masculinity doesn't mean necessarily good, because there's toxic masculinity, and then there's just masculinity that may be good, may be bad. I don't know. So, anyways, he did ask a question there. Contemporary, you don't have to deconstruct masculinity. Sorry, this empowerment. Good Lord, I should.
That exists in our society would somehow erase the masculinity or disambiguate that feminism is often misunderstood as battle of sexes.
Yeah, well, in America, the extreme feminism is in fact a battle of the sexes. But you know, am I a feminist? No. I'm more of a egalitarian, where I genuinely do believe in equality, of course. I want equality of rights for both men and women. There's no doubt. I don't want men to have more power or women to have more power. I want equal power between the two. And also, he was talking about how there was inequality.
However, it is not. It aims to understand why there is gender inequality in the society. It is the idea that the fight for the equality that exists in our society would somehow erase the masculinity or disempower men. That strangely is insulting to some men who do not identify themselves as offensive to women. So my question is, how would deconstructing the contemporary masculinity would help the movement, and what men can do to contribute to achieve the equality in the society and women empowerment?
Okay, equality in society. I'm sorry, I have so much to say, because this is something that's very much going on around here, especially around Jordan Peterson. I haven't followed him much of lately, but the one thing that he said that was very fascinating, which I genuinely do believe, is the fact that I think he did a study in Scandinavian countries where, again, I haven't fact-checked him on this one, but I wouldn't doubt it to be true, because even in America, you can kind of pull up the work, the different fields of work, and then you can split them up by the sexes. And then you can see where most females work and where most males work. And then in Scandinavian countries, according to Jordan Peterson, where they push for equality, nothing else, not equity, but equality. So if you want to get into something, they'll give you free reign so long as you meet the qualification. I believe this is me saying this, that you'll get it. So according to what Jordan Peterson in Scandinavian countries, you'll see roles where women are completely dominating one field. Nurses being one for sure. And then in another role, men are completely dominating another field. The STEM fields, science, engineering, maths, whatever else, technology. But yeah, you'll see there's a very big discrepancy between what women and men choose. Even if you look at in America, where maybe it's not all as equal as the Scandinavian countries, there is still a very big divide. When I worked in the medical field, nurses, predominantly female. A lot of, and as a matter of fact, even in that field and here, a lot of desk jobs, like administrative work, and a lot of like the front desk thing where they check you in and stuff. Front desk, frontline workers, female, predominantly female. What's mostly males? Cleanup, construction, pushing people, patient transportation. In my field now, trash, basically, where they carry the big trash cans, big heavy stuff, is mostly predominantly men. Lifting things, men. So in that society, I think they had free range. I don't think they were forced to go into these fields, but it's kind of like maybe they're put in there, I don't know. But I wouldn't doubt that females don't want to be constantly lifting heavy things, especially if it's too much for them. And don't get me wrong, lifting things is very heavy, but in terms of our genetics and biology, generally speaking, they're going to put men into the heavier fields, and then you got to look at the educational field, educational fields, predominantly women too. Again, these are fields that women and men have chose freely to do what they want, and there's a big discrepancy. Now, unless you want to force people against their will to get that 50-50 split, that's the only way to do it. It's like, oh, you want to do nursing? No, you're going to be garbage disposal, because we need more females in garbage disposal, because that's 99.9% men. Oh, you're a man? Nope, we're going to put you in nursing because it's 98% female.
See, men are doing exactly what the apes and the chimpanzees and the gorillas have been doing right since the first day. What are men doing? Please. Men are running around trying to grab this, gobble that, eat, consume, make merry, have sex with as many women as possible, accumulate a lot of territory. That's what men have been doing all throughout history. Right? What else are the men doing? What does a typical man do that is very distinct from what a chimpanzee does? Please tell me. Please tell me. We glorify mankind as if it is some divine thing, but that which we call as mankind, fundamentally, what is it? How is it different from what happens in the jungle every day? What's happening in Europe between Russia and Ukraine?
Nope.
Is it not happening in the jungle all the time?
Yep.
You know what dogs do. You must be having maybe a few dogs in your campus. You know what dogs do, right?
Real quick, sorry. Again, I keep pausing a lot. But the funny thing is, there are some people in America, or I think in America, or at least in the Western world, that believe that in Animal Kingdom there's no such thing as war.
They mark their territory. Wherever they go, they raise their leg and they mark their territory. Is that fundamentally different from what those world leaders are doing? It's just that given the power of intellect, you just don't raise legs, you raise nukes. And you threaten the other, I'll nuke you, I'll finish you, I'll obliterate you. Now that's what men have been doing all the while. Why do women want to be equal to men? What's so praiseworthy in men that you want to be equal to men? Men are captives to their biological role. Men are in bondage of their bodies, right? When a man runs after a woman in a sexual way, is the man really running after the woman, or is it the biological mandate? Please tell me. Please tell me. And if you take away the biological mandate, will the man still run after the woman? No. You are medical practitioners and students of medicine here. You very well know what a single shot can do. A few mgs of a particular hormone, this way or that way. Inject it or take it away. And you very well know that the entire masculine behavior will change, right? You want to make someone angry, what do?
Testosterone?
You just feed him a pill and he can become angry. You want to placate someone, what do? What are all these anti-anxiety pills? So our behavior is determined by our biology. Our behavior is very much chemical, biological. So the man is the gorilla. Why does the woman want to become a female gorilla? There is no glory in that. Therefore, equality is a misplaced ideal. What we need is liberation, and liberation is not liberty. Liberation is not liberty. Liberation is something very, very different.
That's interesting. I saw I keep referencing Jordan Peterson quite a bit because he's more of a scientist, psychologist, so definitely doesn't think of Advaita Vedanta or anything like that. But he does say, what is equality anyway? And it's kind of funny. He kind of said that same thing. As let me rewind that.
Ideal.
Female gorillas, there's no glory in that. Therefore, equality is a misplaced idea, which is very interesting because Jordan Peterson says, how do we know something is equal? How do we know two persons doing the exact same thing is equal work? And I'm like, well, it's easy. You just see if they do the exact same. If he lifts one package and he lifts one package and they bring it over there, it's equal work. But then there's, I guess, other factors that could potentially go into that. Like how do you know that they're doing the exactly same equal work? Do you start tallying? It's like, okay, he did 20 package, he did 20 package, so that's equal work. It's kind of hard to keep I guess he was talking about like people in the workplace and equal pay for equal work. You know, you can't. It's hard to determine what's equal work, especially if there's not a hard physical number. It's like, okay, you lifted 20 packages and that person lifted 20 packages, so equal work for equal pay. When you're talking about like talking to clients, getting sales and stuff, how do you know what's equal work? So a lot of in that discussion, there's a lot of people saying, oh, equal work, equal pay, but how can you determine what's equal work?
What we need is liberation, and liberation is not liberty. Liberation is not liberty. Liberation is something very, very different. To be liberated is to exceed both manhood and womanhood. As long as the woman says, I am the woman and I want liberty, I repeat, it would be the liberty that you can get within confinement, within a jail. We have very liberal jails these days, don't we? So the inmates, the prisoners, they have a lot of rights within the jail. Do you want that kind of a situation? I have a lot of rights within the jail. Your fundamental jail is the body itself. Why do you want to live as per the instructions of your body? When we say, let me do what I want to do, let me live my life as per my desire, is your desire really your desire? Just as the man's desire is the hormone's desire, the woman's desire is equally the hormone's desire. Where is your desire really? Please tell me. Liberation is about knowing who you really are and therefore what your fundamental desire is. Only that can help us and save us. Otherwise, you see, we know of climate change. We know of the atomic arsenals that the superpowers hold. Even India has like 100 or 200 nukes. It's all because we have been acting as per our desires. Every country is territorial, just as every dog is territorial. We want to encroach upon the other. We want to covet others' resources. We want to have more and more to feed our bodies and our senses so that we can feel happy. The world.
I will say real quick for that one though, maybe it's not necessarily grabbing more and more. Russia and Ukraine for sure, but I'd say in terms of, it seems like we were talking about India at the time, but no, I think a lot of nations, once they're kind of settled in, it's not for grabbing more, but more for defense. But Russia, where I think it's talking about, is the fact that yeah, they're trying to grab more and more for sure. Yeah, so yeah, you never know which nation wants to grab more. Why they're building nukes, to grab more or self-defense? You know, just all depends. Russia definitely grabbing more, at least in terms of what he's talking about. India, of course, for self-defense. I mean, it's yeah, I wish you could always trust your neighbors, but you don't know for sure.
Is on the edge of obliteration exactly because we have been living as per our desires. And our desires, mind you, are the desires of the jungle. They won't take us anywhere.
Acharya, you talked about liberation. So I think that liberation can't happen by woman. So what can be the role of mind or a man in the liberation of woman?
Let me get it right. You said what can be the role of man in the liberation of woman? As long as the man is a man, he cannot help any woman. If a man continues to be a man, he can only be a predator towards the woman. If I am speaking here, I am not speaking as a man. I have to keep my gender and sexual identity aside. Please remember, biologically there can be only one relationship between man and woman. All your civilizational values aside, there can be only one relationship. The man hunts, the woman is the hunted. And in being hunted, the woman hunts back the man in a passive way. That's the biological thing. At an active level, the man is the hunter and the woman is the hunted. Inwardly, the woman is the hunter, the man is the hunted. Irrespective of which level we are talking of, there is just violence. Somebody is hunting, somebody is being hunted. So, a man really cannot help woman. A woman really cannot help man. You have to be a human being to help another human being. And that's a very different way of looking at yourself.
I wonder how you would describe that though.
And when, mind you, you are a human being.
Sorry. So I was trying to understand, why do you have to be a human being to help another human being? What's wrong with, I guess because my thinking of identities aren't like, I guess how maybe perhaps other people, they use their identities to judge, to do things with, while I look at identities as like beneficial things and not necessarily a way of judging or I don't know, using identities as ways of helping people. I don't know. It's, if a person needs help, they need help, irrelevant of anything, any identity. So I identify as my identity as a man doesn't hinder me from helping anyone. So perhaps me looking at it that way is the reason why I'm confused. But I think it's trying to say the sheer fact that whenever you have all these identities, they could hinder yourself from helping people, because it's kind of like blind leading the blind, where if you have an identity and they have an identity, it's hard to break that to be able to help them get past that identity. Perhaps that's what I'm understanding.
It is not only the man or the woman that you help, then you help entire existence. Then you care for the birds, the bees, the dogs, the squirrel, the fish. Then you cannot say, oh, I am a participant in the women's liberation movement. Now where is my mutton chop? How is it possible that you have so much empathy towards women, but not the goat? How is it possible? When you are really awake, then it is not only the gender that you care towards. Then you care towards all consciousness, because you realize that consciousness is the goal of life. Then you cannot be violent towards anybody, not even towards a blade of grass. You will try your best to minimize violence or eradicate it in whichever way possible.
I want to ask that with respect to the permissions, with respect to the judgments and everything that me compared to my sister is getting, I am allowed those freedoms more compared to her. So is it wrong for me to enjoy them?
I'm gonna what?
With respect to the permissions, with respect to the judgments and everything that
Permissions and judgments.
me compared to my sister is getting, I am allowed those freedoms more compared to her. So is it wrong for me to enjoy them?
I wouldn't say it's wrong, but why do they not have it? Why does your sister not have that? What is preventing your sister from having it would be my first question. I don't understand. I don't know if it's something in his house, the culture, or whatever. Just I'm wondering if he's just thinking that his sister doesn't have these privileges because whatever. I don't know.
You see, you and your sister are there, and you are given 2 apples and she is given none. Now answer me. Can you enjoy? That's it. How can you really enjoy if your sister is being denied the basic freedoms and such things?
Well, I mean, you cannot share freedom though. It's not a physical attribute. So I get what he's saying with the apples, is that you want equality between both of you. But I guess perhaps maybe, and at least in maybe me, it's a little bit difficult. I get the overall saying though. But yeah, I don't think you should necessarily feel guilty, but you can use your privileges or whatever that may be to get equality. So if you have, like, again, governments, whatever higher power of governments, if you have that privilege to become that and your sister doesn't, then you use that privilege to provide equality. You know, because you cannot give that. There's not a physical privilege like, here you go, sister. There's your privilege. You know, you can't. Let me cut my privilege in half. You can't do that. But you can use your privilege or whatever it may be to get equality out there.
That's all.
Which is what he's trying to say.
We all are greatly interlinked. Deep spirituality would say we are all one. Let's not go to that extent. But at least see that we all lead a very interlinked existence. It is not possible for one man to be joyful with others around him being in misery. Especially if the other you are talking of is your own sister. How will you go out, for example, and watch a cricket match in the stadium or have a night out when you know that your sister too is a cricket lover and is not being allowed to come? Won't every bit of joy pain you further. You know that you are having it and somebody is not having it. And the one who is not having it, you love her.
Hmm?
Now, is that then enjoyment or suffering for you?
If you hate your sister, that's probably in pure enjoyment. But of course, in terms of general, yeah, of course it's suffering. You would hate the fact that someone that you love and care about can't enjoy life. That's really weird. So is that a thing? That's really weird.
You are being kept hungry and I am being given a lot of food. And the food is delicious and nutritious. Every morsel of food now, is it enjoyable to me or is it further suffering? Yes?
So, I can understand. I really understand what you're saying, and I totally understand that. So, I am also asking with respect to the opportunities that this world provides me. Like, I know why my sister herself is telling me कि यार मैं नहीं कर सकती ये, but then तुझे नहीं रोका है कोई तो तू जाके कर ये. You, with respect to the opportunities, but me myself as a person who, because I know that I like her, so should I not do those take advantage of those opportunities? Should I just?
No. First of all, it is very generous of your sister and very loving of your sister to ask you to proceed with the opportunities you have and all the freedoms that you can get.
I would assume if she's a good sister, she wouldn't want to hold you back. She wouldn't want to be the reason to hold you back.
Even as she is being denied those opportunities and freedoms.
But you would hope in return that you would find a way to, if impossible, to give her these same freedoms, to support her in some way, to make sure that she at least lives the best life she can, you know, or to find again a way to make equality happen.
That's very generous of her. Now, that's her side of the story. She's being generous. What are you being? What are you being? She's being good. All right, brother, I'm not being given the good things in life, but if you are being offered them, accept them. Right?
That's a good sister, absolutely.
That's her heart. Now, where's your heart?
Absolutely. Be a good brother.
I think the greatest enjoyment in such a situation would be to ensure that she does get a bit of what you get.
Sure. I like what he's talking already. Again, he it's kind of funny. It's like I listen to him and I'm like, I get what you're saying. How is it tying in? Or I was like, I see how it's tying in, kinda. And all of a sudden at the end, it's like, yeah, I see how you're tying it all in now. And also I have to understand. I mean, this is small bits of, I guess, the whole the video. And I wouldn't mind watching the whole video of him talking, especially to college students. And of course, it's going to be relevant of what kind of college he's talking to. If they're talking about medical field, they're very much into the transactional or objective realities, because I don't know if they're thought philosophy, which would be, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would see as like nonsense, especially Advaita Vedanta or whatever, that you are one consciousness or whatever. I'm sure it would seem very foreign to very logical minded people. I'm pretty logical minded myself, but I put things into a perspective which I understand, and I don't merely just believe in things. I must experience it, or things that I've observed in my life must kind of fall in with what I hear, and if I believe it to be probably true, then I can believe in it. The only reason why I say believe in it is because I have not personally experienced it, but it seems very believable and seems very probable. Very logical sounded mind. But yeah, again, I'm open-minded to the fact, and with watching these videos, obviously I've opened my mind quite a bit. I have a lot of different minds, I guess you could call it. Like, again, like the three different perspectives: the subjective, objective, and or transactional, and absolute realities. Absolute realities being that everything's Brahman. Let me phrase it: in a way that there is only Brahman, and things that we see are mere, what's the proper phrasing of the word? Are mere illusions that appear in Brahman, but essentially everything is, and let me phrase it the way I would say it just so I can understand it. It's like everything's Brahman, and everything else is in a sense an illusion. Objects are illusions. This physical form is an illusion. The consciousness is the only thing that's real. Well, that one I'm putting on out there, but everything is pure consciousness. Everything's Brahman. Any object is illusion, Maya. So anyways, but yeah. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that one. I think I spoke too much trying to get that firm right. I lost my train of thought. So anyways, it's very interesting. I like the way he's talking for sure. And I'd say I have to get used to how he speaks too, because it, like, again, whenever he starts talking, I'm like, where are you going with this? I get it, but where are you going with this? Much like with Sadhguru and well, Tadatmananda, I've gotten him on point. He speaks quite clearly to me. Sarvapriyananda, I think I got him too. But Sadhguru, I got him for the most part, but there's still questions. Lakhani, got him for the most part, and then Prashant here, got him for the most part. But still, the more I watch his videos, the more I can understand what he means when he speaks, for the most part. Anyways, that's my reaction to the patriarchy, the role and the suffering of men. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.